Shubor naga Snem jong nong san Hima.
Ka new don ka day ka Kynhun ka badang mi Thymmai kane ka Kynhun ka ban kren halor ka jinge ki ba kisamla ki ya kando khamtam ha kane ka jok ka ba manta kane ka Kynhun kan phai khmaru habaya day mat ka jingkiu jong ki samla ki ba sange no ya ki jingpuli jong ki shiteng por but ya ki wei de ki jinge ki ba ki paj ba ha ka jela ki ya kando na ka daw jong ki jingle sting ne ki jing bom sim khia jong sarkar kabalakta yo pajba na kasngi sha kasngi ka Kynhun new don kedai ka Kynhun hapo ke jingelam jong usamla rangba uba abne pariat habakran sikalat pathai ko bor uba abne pariat ulayathu ru ba ka new don shen ka sapan kha ya ka sing san perkai ka ban sa aireng ha ka Ilekshon jong ka ying dorbar thawan jong ka jala ka ban salong house Snem ar hajar ar pulai
nga di Avna Parian, but nga di way ni members of the seng ba Thymmai bani la ikatanga new dawn ma taga jumut mut ka step ka Thymmai nongrem jong ni ka seng jungi ka dei ba ni kwa ban stang ban kali jing kali ya keyboard sinsar ki ba kumma kilong mentah kan ka pertai ha kan ka jala jungi bun bha ki ei lada kadi ka seng kaba sinsar ne ka seng kaba dan opposition ru ki dan laki nongrem joki but let's say kimdi ki nongrem ki ban yaha pat ka sinsar kada jong pat ban te kadau ba ni thaw ga ne seng ru kadai bangin sang ban tokit insang ban kali insang ban julip na keyboard ban ha jong jungi te kata ka sup do ban batai pisa pangka nongrem jungi te nang ban poisata sakani ka mat ka bang ya one realum name tasni ka main issue ka bangi kwa banya kren halor mentasi ka ya ka state youth policy ka ba tension kila ya pan suggestion but opinion ha limba bun di resan ba khamtam online de ngina ka seng jungi new don ngila submit ka dot ni tili suggestions saka sorka but kila bun ma suggestions te nisham ba ka youth policy kum ka permit ka sarkar haka draft ka kadai ke basule ke but mde ka nunu ka kam ka pa longsong khia but sakawai ru ka pa kongsan kadai ba musham dan consultation ru anchu ai nuksa pi na ka kaniri na website ki thwa ba sanspa ngut ki youth kila yo kata ka ki ai ge jimut saka youth policy tang ba ladangi ken pada sanspa youth kadai tang kanu percentage ya ka population jong state atau population of youth in the state kadai kuma khatwai la kama niyo pada ka jimut tang na sanspa ngun so kung kita ki jingduna ki ba ni atatien pangka jing bhal ni ka jing pura jong ni ka youth policy te sakawai kamat pada bangi kwa ban kali ya ka keyboard sinsa kadai ba hakani youth policy ni fikuli nom syam num nuru ba kitwa pangka kapisa bagi lamang saka youth policy kishu ai kini jing of monitoring, evaluation and review in the document, in the draft, has been summed up in 120 words. There's no accountability, that means. We don't know who is going to take care of what. We have just simply had directions, and perhaps based on those directions, allocations will come. But other than that, there is no responsibility. That means we will just throw money out there and hopefully it works. There's no accountability, there's no kind of review processes, there's no monitoring. So that is a very dangerous trend, especially now with all this money coming in from outside in terms of funds, loans, which are coming in from outside, from different banks. These are loans which have to be repaid. They are loans. They have interest rates attached to them. Our people will have to pay it at the end of the day. So if you look at the type of funding which is coming in, it's a lot of money. It's nice. There's a lot of money. It's wonderful. But at the same time, it's also very troubling if we are just going to throw that money out without making mechanisms that can make that money back so that we can pay the banks outside. Sa kata kanu ka figure lani kinu ki number ki ba long ba pin shisha ba ki pakhat na beta ki youth jung te lada pipet ba pinum lap dang sen pada hakani umnu te yo kila kular pada bagian ai kuma aspa keluar mentau Snem saka youth development tama hakaturu lada ngipet ba ngisem ba naka aspa keluar kumba sispa new keluar kade yaka infrastructural development. Now, infrastructural development ni Ilekshon infrastructural development kaso yang himo ni ong ni stadium ni building tamai ka jo upor de ka training par kaditang lai folklore. So kapin I hagajing samjungi kapin I ba kadon ka ka balong ki ai tamai haju por kim ai nakalang sarkar nama ba ki ai siki contractor siki beriu jongki tamba haju upor pada ya ka real training ya ka bisa ki de perlu sa kim da pelajing mathan te kata di kawi ka point ko bangi ko apan das kuma te kibun kibi mat athai na pia puli gani ka dokumen mengina ai pia seru concession ma kibun ba nginum la ban pendap ko lesen ni haban jer iwe de ngin sa sum di kenta tamba ngan su ai nuksa ka tu ni telima pat mentang athai ngan kana pare ma kini ki point dera pare ma mengisamen employment is that there's a lot of emphasis on entrepreneurship and individual achievement. You know, there's a lot of emphasis on individual achievement, but a lot of these businesses that the government is helping nowadays, they have no employee policy. There are hardly any employees. They are all casual or they work from contract to contract, and they're not getting paid well enough. So we are giving money to a few people who pay their staff very badly. Many of them don't even cover their staff under EPFs and insurances and all that. So what is the point then of creating jobs if those jobs are really, really bad? So these are the types of things that the government really needs to take seriously, according to us, because it will lead to a better future, a brighter future, instead of a future where just a few people control everything. Areas, okay, entrepreneurship, development. A lot of times, according to our own opinion and research as well, a lot of firms that are assisted under entrepreneurship programs are firms that are actually, for lack of a better word, they are creamy layer. They already are people who already have a lot of money. Very seldom will you actually see enterprises being assisted which are really grassroots, and they are not being helped enough. We would like to see more emphasis on cooperative development because according to us, we believe that cooperative sector is very, very important, especially in a small state like Meghalaya. We can't allow just a few people to eat everything. We need to have cooperatives, and it's in line with what we believed in from a long time ago. Imlang salang, ya imlang ya salang, maktangi diba niya tray lang po. Hakata kalian. So there's no way our businesses will grow if we don't put an emphasis on cooperative sector and cooperative development. There's just no way. There's no real way that it can grow. On the front of arts and culture also, there you can read the whole document, okay? But we're just highlighting a few points. On the front of arts and culture, we find that as usual, arts and culture department is woefully underfunded, very badly underfunded, and it's such a shame because we are losing every day. We are losing our traditions, our practices, because the arts and culture department is so weak in terms of finances. So they can't really spend too much on important activities, especially related to documentation and research and preservation of old forms. We suggest to the government that they create an arts council which is free from bureaucratic and political control, which is staffed by people from the arts and in arts management. There should be a corpus that's also created, which then people can apply to for funding. Instead of right now, it depends on who you know. So if you know a minister or somebody, then you get that funding. But it should not be like that. The best work should come forward, and should be done through a specialized arts council. That is one of our main suggestions in that sector. One of the main points of contention has been that the the vast majority of the youth have no access to this actual consultation. 500 youth were given were said to have given their opinions, out of which that would constitute only about 0.045 percentage of the total youth population of the state. That is not really fair nor democratic, and that shows that there's a glaring miscommunication between the policymakers and the people, especially the young people. Now, there is also no real financial commitment in any of the pages of the state youth policy as we have studied it. Recently, last few days, the government has declared that it will allocate 200 crores for youth development activities this year. But again, out of the 200 crores, 170 is only in infrastructural development, which is a one-time thing. There's hardly any sustainable training, sustainable activities that will benefit the youth, according to us. They need to reverse, actually. The funding patterns need to be reversed. Infrastructure needs to, yes, happen, but also at the same time, a large chunk of money must be allocated towards sustainable training programs and other such things across the spectrum. The main one of the main issues that we've looked at in terms of business, for example, one of the key points here, the government has thought about this thrust area much more. But again, we really look at it. The main problem has always been that our people do not have access to capital. It doesn't matter if we are all given Entrepreneurs of the Month awards, but the truth is, to sustain a business, it requires a lot of funding, a lot of loans, a lot of proper funding patterns which need to be established on the part of the government. It's very easy to say, "Oh, we will give loans," but if you actually go and apply in banks and other credit institutions, you will find that it's very, very difficult. And that is the truth that many of us in the youth have encountered whenever we go and seek funding. With regards to education, one point that we want to raise is about the glaring rise in dropout rates. Dropout rates in the state are very, very high, but there is no commitment, according to the document, to look at how these dropout rates are, what are the reasons behind them, and how are we going to solve that issue. There's hardly any kind of real concrete steps here. A lot of the document is very vague, and it seems to us it's been copy pasted from the national youth policy at the center. And these are real big problems, because if we're going to have thrust areas, we're going to intervene in certain spaces, it needs to have proper research done. There is so little research, it's amazing. It's just like a couple of people sitting in a room and deciding that this is how things are. But there's no allocation for research and fact finding. There's no allocation at all, and that is very, very dangerous. I think the government, one of the suggestions we have from New Dawn is that they need to create a kind of a research cell which actually is specifically designed for that. And the findings have to be impartial and scientific. Now we are going to move on into a very interesting area, like going back to teaching. Before we move on, with regards to teaching, there's a lot of money. Again, I will stress this again and again. There's a lot of money that has been promised to infrastructural development. We're seeing new buildings come out every day. A lot of new buildings, new school buildings. I'm sure many of you in the press are going to these openings. But school teachers still have no payment increase. Their salaries are not being paid for months and months and months, and they have to actually go and strike. Every day we see that there's a teacher strike. This is a very big problem. I think, as we've suggested from New Dawn, we need to create some sort of a corpus fund which is dedicated just to payment of these teachers' salaries, because there's no point in having beautiful buildings and at the same time the teachers have no money, and there's no money for anything else other than beautiful buildings. These are priorities that the government must take seriously. Kata ketika idea dumi kajing temu dumi tamang ihap banyo kajing mut nu pai ba hi niki beriu na madan ke
Along money organization or platform maybe
unde tangyanga other people for us.
members
Yes.
of the organization.
Yes.
I mean, we
We've-
use this organization
yeah.
as a platform member for launch a new political party
Yes.
of youths
Yes,
with fresher
perspectives, ideas, but kadiban wan natry ten maba.
and got pay of young past governments and present government has failed the
Yeah. Yeah.
interest issue. And another thing, people can go website. Only 500 suggestions has come in
For 500 people, yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The government organization PP government should have already very draft policy. Kemudian kerja benung extensive issue.
Of course.
Sans
Sanspangud.
Shaban murah ini policy.
Exactly. Sanspangud kalong tangkumak kampat long kawai ke school lu. Kadai kaseng kaba kakwa ban sedang ban challenge for lack of a better word. Kadang ka challenge ya ka lukom sensyal kada kumaka long menta Meghalaya for a very long time. Kamde shoot tang menta ka adi ako like Snem. Bon nangi berang samla ni shabjing ya bah menta. Hakani ka sensyal kada kaba mendai tang ka NPP mo nam kena NPP for a very long time. I menta isu ya le kenjat football ba. Ni I assembly ru menta ka long time. Katai kan kejat seni kani kejat stay, but kadu kawai di kini ki parti kilak klet yu pai pa, but kilak klet kamtam ya ki samla kiba menta kiba nang hiat nang san ni kwa ban keli jing keli nakani ka sarkar dan ni kiwe ki sarkar ban swan dia ba hato pidang kermau na yu pai pa pidang kermau na mi kibriu kiba nang menta kiba nang hiat kiba nang san kiba nang kiu tek ni eventually ni temu hi bangin intervene politically bangin rung haka politics kan kata ketika long ni tu ni melihat kai lah ni kami bisa ni kwa hi suki ban rung haka politics normal ba ni nget ba nila ban perkat aku mai ta khamtam haka ni ka pateng bendeu menta ni nget ba nila ban perkat aku mai but ni haban perkat aku mai